They say I'm retired. My wife says I'm passive. Her boss built his empire in my building on my code with her full support. At the company party, I dropped my badge. He picked it up, read my name, and froze. "Does your wife know who you are?" he whispered. She knew who I was. She just forgot what I'm capable of. My name is Gregory Lansing. I'm 50 years old, and for the last 5 years, everyone has assumed I've been doing nothing. They're wrong. I've been watching, waiting, building something they couldn't see because they stopped paying attention. 12 years ago, I created Coriam, a back-end system that powered half the e-commerce platforms you've probably used without realizing it. Payment processing, inventory, fulfillment, everything ran on the architecture I designed in a tiny apartment, surrounded by coffee-stained notebooks and a whiteboard full of diagrams. I scaled it, sold it for $340 million, and walked away. No interviews, no magazine covers, no victory parade. Just a quiet exit and the illusion of a simpler life. Michelle, my wife of 26 years, loved the money. She hated the stillness. Her identity depended on being married to someone important, someone constantly in motion. When I stopped moving, she went looking for that momentum somewhere else. Enter Blake Patterson, her new boss at Velocity Hub, a startup promising to revolutionize online retail with AI-driven commerce solutions. He was everything I no longer bothered to be: loud, hungry, always performing for an audience. Michelle ate it up. 3 years ago, Velocity Hub leased space in a downtown Seattle building. Exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, industrial chic everywhere. The kind of office that screams, "We're changing the world." What Michelle didn't know, what Blake didn't know, was that I own that building. Not in my name, of course. On paper, it belongs to Sentinel Properties LLC, a Delaware trust managed by a firm in Denver. The lease was signed by people who never connected Gregory Lansing to the portfolio that paid for their picture-perfect headquarters. Tonight was their annual company party. Michelle insisted I go. "It'll be good for you to get out," she said, which really meant, "I need you there so everyone remembers I'm still married." So I went, stood in the corner, sipping whiskey, watching my wife laugh at Blake's jokes, touch his arm, lean in close. Our 3 kids weren't there. Liam was traveling for work, Emma was finishing her MBA semester, and Lucas was wrapped up in college life. Just me, invisible in a room full of people who had no idea who I was. Then it happened. I shifted my weight and my wallet slipped from my jacket, smacking against the marble floor. My building access badge skittered out, sliding across the polished surface. Before I could reach it, Blake was already there, bending down with that practiced investor charming smile. He picked up the badge, glanced at it casually, then froze. Not a hesitation, a complete shutdown. His eyes locked on the name etched into the plastic. G. Lansing Sentinel. Property's owner, access. The color drained from his face. His hands trembled as he looked up at me with something I'd never seen from him before: fear. He stood slowly, holding the badge between 2 fingers like it might detonate. The party noise dimmed into a dull hum. His mouth opened, shut, then opened again. When he finally spoke, his voice was so low only I could hear. "Sir, does your wife know who you are?" I held his gaze. No smile, no frown, just silence, until the moment stretched thin. Then I slid the badge from his shaking hand and tucked it back into my wallet. "She knows exactly who I am," I said quietly. "The question is, do you?" Blake recoiled like I'd shoved him. His eyes darted around, searching for an exit, for Michelle, for anything that made sense. But nothing did anymore, because he'd just realized he'd been playing a game on a board I owned. Michelle appeared at his elbow with a glass of champagne, blissfully unaware. "Everything okay?" she asked brightly. Blake's voice came out tight and strangled. "Fine, I just need to make a call." He practically bolted for the balcony, phone already in his hand. Michelle turned to me, frowning. "What was that about?" I took a slow sip of whiskey. "I think Blake just remembered something important." She narrowed her eyes but let it go. Someone tapped a glass for a toast, the music swelled again, and the party moved on. But the ground underneath it had shifted, and I hadn't had to raise my voice once. Michelle was quiet in the car. Not the easy silence we shared 20 years ago, but the tense kind that settles between two people who stopped truly talking a long time ago. She scrolled through photos from the party, liking them as we drove through Seattle's rain-slick streets. Blake seemed off tonight, she said eventually, still looking at her screen. Did he? I kept my eyes on the road. Yeah, like something spooked him. She glanced sideways at me. You didn't say anything to him, did you? We barely spoke. Greg. Her tone sharpened. What happened when he picked up your wallet? He gave it back, I replied. That's all. She fell silent again, but I could feel her studying me. After 26 years of marriage, you learn to read the quiet. This wasn't confusion. It was suspicion. We pulled into our driveway in Bellevue. The house felt cavernous and hollow without the kids. Liam in Chicago closing a deal. Emma buried in finals at Stanford. Lucas still in Boulder. Just the two of us echoing around 5,000 square feet that used to feel full. Michelle went straight upstairs without a good night. I poured myself a scotch and opened my laptop in the study. 3 emails were already waiting, each marked urgent, all from law firms I'd never heard of. Blake didn't waste time. The first requested detailed documentation of Sentinel Properties' ownership structure. The second asked for clarification on specific lease provisions. The third, from Velocity Hub's general counsel, politely inquired about building security protocols and badge issuance. I smiled. They were panicking, trying to confirm what Blake had seen, hunting for leverage, for a loophole, any way to regain control. They wouldn't find one. I'd spent 5 years making sure of that. I opened a separate folder on my desktop. Inside were the files I'd been compiling for 8 months. Code repositories, commit logs, architecture diagrams, every piece of proof showing that Velocity Hub's groundbreaking platform wasn't built from scratch at all. It was standing on Kareem's bones, on my foundation. Michelle had access to everything when we were married, back when I actually trusted her with my work. She downloaded documentation, saved schematics, kept copies of technical specs, said she wanted to really understand what I'd built. She understood all right, understood it well enough to hand it to Blake. I'd found the email chain from 3 years ago. Michelle to Blake. Attached are some of the back-end frameworks my husband developed. Could be useful for reference. Blake's reply, "This is gold. Can we schedule a call?" They hadn't flat-out stolen the code. They were smarter than that. They reverse-engineered it, rebranded it, dressed it up with a sleeker interface, and slapped a buzzword label on top. But underneath the marketing, the bones were mine. The architecture, the logic flows, the database structure. All of it originated with me. I closed my laptop and walked to the window. Rain hammered the glass. Somewhere across Seattle, Blake was probably still awake, on the phone, desperately trying to contain what he'd just learned. He couldn't contain it. The foundation his company stood on wasn't his. It was mine. And I was about to prove it. Upstairs, I heard Michelle's phone buzz, once, twice, 3 times. Then her footsteps, quick, sharp, crossing the bedroom floor. The calls were starting. I woke at 5:30, like always. Michelle's side of the bed was empty, sheets already cold. I found her in the kitchen, fully dressed, phone pressed to her ear. She ended the call the moment she saw me. "Blake wants to meet," she said. No good morning, no small talk. He says it's urgent. I poured myself coffee, taking my time with the cream. About what? He wouldn't say. Just that it involves you. Her eyes searched my face. Greg, what's going on? You should ask Blake. I'm asking you, she insisted. I met her gaze over the rim of my mug. When you gave Blake my Corium documentation 3 years ago, did you really think I wouldn't find out? The color bled out of her face. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I set the cup down. The back-end frameworks, the database architecture, the API specs. You emailed them to him. March 2022, subject line. Could be useful for reference. She stepped back. I was just trying to help. He was struggling with the platform architecture, and I thought, you thought you'd hand over 12 years of my work and call it helping? My voice stayed low and steady. That seemed to rattle her more than shouting ever could. Did he pay you, or was this just about feeling important? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Michelle? Her mouth opened, then closed again. Her phone buzzed. Blake's name lit up the screen. She didn't answer. Velocity Hub built their entire platform on my architecture, I said. Every core function, every workflow. They didn't rip the code line by line. They're too careful for that. But they copied the foundation, repackaged it, and sold it as innovation. You're paranoid, she snapped. I have commit logs, code repositories, your email thread with Blake. I pulled out my phone and held it up. Her own words stared back at her. This is gold. She went even paler. Blake said it was just inspiration, that we were using it as a reference point. A reference point you never mentioned to me, I replied. You weren't interested, she shot back. You retired, Greg. You walked away. What was I supposed to do? Stop living because you decided to stop building? You were supposed not to give away what I built to someone who'd weaponize it against me. Her phone rang again. Blake, still calling. This time she answered and walked into the next room. I could hear her voice through the wall, defensive at first, then rising with panic. When she came back, her hand was shaking. He's being sued, she whispered. Some IP firm out of Delaware filed this morning. They're alleging patent infringement, stolen architecture, breach of licensing agreements. Blake thinks you're behind it. He's right, I said. Greg, you can't do this. I already did. I rinsed my cup and set it in the sink. The firm represents Sentinel Properties, which, as Blake has just discovered, is me. The building he rents, the infrastructure his company runs on, the physical and digital foundation. All of it, mine. This will destroy him. He destroyed himself when he built a company on stolen work. Our son works there, her voice cracked. Liam just got promoted. If Velocity Hub collapses, he loses everything. That made me pause. Liam, 25, sharp as they come. He'd climbed from junior analyst to senior strategist in 2 years. He'd been so proud when he landed that job. Liam's smart, I said quietly. He'll land on his feet. Not if his own father takes down the company he works for. She moved closer. Please, Greg, think about what this will do to our family. I looked at her. Really looked. The woman I'd married 26 years ago, who had stood beside me through sleepless nights and early failures as I built Koream from nothing. Somewhere along the line, she'd stopped being my partner and turned into someone I barely recognized. I am thinking about family, I said. I'm thinking about what you did to ours. Liam called at noon. I was in my study reviewing documents when his name flashed on the screen. Dad, he began, voice tight but controlled. We need to talk. About what? About why my boss just got served with a lawsuit that mentions your name 17 times. I leaned back in my chair. You read the filing. Everyone in the office read it. It's all anyone's talking about. He exhaled sharply. Please tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing. What do you think I'm doing? Blowing up Velocity Hub because Mom works here, he said bluntly. This isn't about your mother. Then what is it about? His frustration broke through. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're nuking my career to make a point. It's about intellectual property theft, I said. Blake Patterson built his company on architecture I created. Architecture your mother gave him access to without my knowledge or consent. Silence. Then, Mom did what? I laid it all out. The emails, the documentation, the lifted frameworks. Liam listened without interrupting, which meant he was thinking, dissecting every detail. He'd always been analytical, even as a kid. How long have you known? He asked finally. 8 months. And you didn't tell me? Would you have believed me? Another pause. I don't know. Blake's been good to me, promoted me twice, gave me real responsibility. He's not perfect, but he's not a thief either. He is, I said, when he builds a business on someone else's foundation. Dad, people iterate on existing technology all the time. That's how innovation works, he said. Not when you copy the entire architecture without permission or compensation, I replied. I heard him exhale, slow and frustrated. What do you want me to do? Nothing. This isn't your fight. It is if my job disappears because of it. His voice sharpened. I've worked my ass off for 2 years. I earned this position, and now you're going to take it away. Blake took it away when he committed IP theft. No. Liam's tone turned ice cold. You're taking it away because you can't stand that Mom found something you don't control. That landed harder than I expected. This isn't about control, Liam. Isn't it? He shot back. You sold your company, retired, vanished. Mom moved on. She found work she's good at, people who value her, and you can't handle it. Liam, I have to go, he cut in. Blake's calling an emergency meeting. The line went dead. I sat there, phone still in my hand, staring at nothing. My son thought I was the villain, and the worst part was, he might not be entirely wrong. Emma called 3 days later. My middle child, 23, MBA student at Stanford, the only one who inherited both my analytical side and Michelle's diplomacy. I answered on the second ring. Dad, we need to talk about what you're doing. Liam called you. Liam, Mom, and about 6 of Mom's friends who all seem convinced you've lost your mind. She paused. Have you? Not yet. Then explain why you're trying to blow up a company that employs your son and jeopardize Mom's career. I told her everything, the stolen architecture, the email trail, the months of quiet investigation, the years of betrayal. Emma didn't interrupt once, which meant she was taking notes. She always took notes when it mattered. Okay, she said finally. So Mom massively screwed up, and Blake's a thief. But Dad, there's something you need to know. What? I invested in Velocity Hub. The air seemed to thin. How much? $50,000 from my trust, last year when they opened their Series B to family and friends of employees. My chest tightened. Emma, Mom said it was solid, she continued. She told me the company had breakthrough tech and strong fundamentals. I did my due diligence, looked at their financials, their roadmap. It all checked out. Her voice trembled slightly. I didn't know it was built on your work, and neither did any of the other investors. How much do you lose if the company folds? Everything. $50,000, Dad. That was supposed to be my safety net after graduation. I closed my eyes. Liam's job, Emma's savings. And Michelle had woven both of those into a company standing on stolen foundations. There's more, Emma said. I've been going through Velocity Hub's public filings for a class project. Their latest investor deck projects $200 million in revenue over the next 3 years. Current valuation, $450 million. That's impossible, I said. Their platform can't scale that fast if it's built on architecture that's already been stress tested. Your architecture, she added. Blake isn't just using your work. He's betting the entire future of the company on it. And he's raising money based on technology he doesn't legally own. Who else is invested? Pension funds, family offices, 3 major VCs, she replied. Total of $90 million raised in the last round. Papers rustled on her end. Dad, if you push this IP claim all the way, you're not just hitting Blake, you're wiping out $90 million in capital. People will lose everything. People who invested in fraud, I said. People who didn't know it was fraud, she shot back. Including your daughter. I stood and walked to the window. Rain again, Seattle washed in gray. What would you have me do? I asked quietly. Just let them keep using my work? No. Make them pay for it, she said. Negotiate a licensing deal, take a percentage of revenue, get a seat on the board, but don't burn the whole thing down. She hesitated, then added, Liam's getting married, Dad. That stopped me. What? He proposed to his girlfriend 2 weeks ago. Sarah, the marketing director at Velocity Hub. They met at work. The wedding's next summer. Emma's voice softened. If you destroy the company, you torpedo his career and hers. You might be the reason his wedding falls apart. He didn't tell you about the engagement because he knew you'd react exactly like this. Closed off, making moves without thinking how they hit everyone else. That's not fair, I said. Isn't it? She asked. You've been planning this for 8 months and never once talked to us about it. Never asked how it might affect our lives. You just decided what was right and started executing. Mom did the same thing when she gave Blake those files. She let that hang there. You two are more alike than you think. That cut deeper than anything else she could have said. I need to think about this, I managed. Think fast, she replied. Lucas called me this morning. He's flying home tomorrow. Why? Because his family's imploding and he wants to fix it. Her voice cracked just a little. We're all flying home, Dad, all 3 of us, and we're going to sit down and figure this out like adults, with or without you. She hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass. My youngest, 21, cutting his semester short to come home. My daughter sacrificing study time during finals. My oldest stuck between his father and his career. I thought I was protecting what was mine. Turned out, I was tearing apart what mattered most. Blake requested a meeting through his attorney. Neutral ground, a conference room in a downtown law firm. Michelle insisted on coming. I didn't argue. We arrived separately. Blake was already there when I walked in, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Kellerman, sat beside him, a stack of folders in front of her that probably cost 6 figures in billable hours. Michelle took the chair opposite Blake. I sat at the head of the table. "Thank you for coming," Patricia began. "My client would like to—" "Save it," I cut in. "Blake can speak for himself." Blake straightened a little. "Greg, I want to apologize," he said. "When Michelle sent me those files, I didn't realize what I was looking at. I thought they were general reference documents." "You knew exactly what they were," I replied. "I knew they were technical docs," he said quickly. "I didn't know they described proprietary architecture under licensing protection." "You replied, 'This is gold,'" I said. "That doesn't sound like someone glancing at generic references." He flinched. "Poor choice of words. I just meant it would help us avoid common mistakes by borrowing your methodology." Patricia cut in before he could dig himself in deeper. "Mr. Lansing, my client is prepared to offer substantial compensation. A licensing agreement with retroactive payments, equity in Velocity Hub, and a board seat." "How substantial?" I asked. She slid a document across the table. I glanced at the figure. $15 million plus 3% equity, she said. "That's what you think my work is worth?" I looked up at her. 15 million and pocket change? "It's a starting point," Patricia replied smoothly. "We're open to negotiation." "Here's my counteroffer," I said, leaning forward. "You shut Velocity Hub down. All investor capital is returned with interest. And Blake publicly admits to IP theft." Blake went even paler. "That would destroy my reputation." "You did that yourself," I said. "Greg, please," Michelle cut in, her voice tight. "Think about Liam. Think about Emma's investment." "I am thinking about them," I answered. "I'm thinking about what it teaches them if their father lets someone steal his life's work and walk away without consequences." "And what does it teach them?" she fired back. "If their father is willing to wreck their futures just to get revenge." Blake cleared his throat, voice unsteady but trying to hold steady. "What if I step down?" he said. "I resign as CEO, forfeit my equity, and publicly acknowledge that the company's core technology is licensed from you. We restructure with you as majority owner. You control the company. I get nothing." He met my eyes. "But the company survives. The employees keep their jobs. Your son keeps his career." It was better than I expected. Strategic even. Blake would lose everything, but Velocity Hub would live on under my control. "There's one condition," I said. "Name it," Blake replied. "Michelle resigns immediately. No severance, no equity, no ongoing connection to the company." Michelle's head snapped up. "What?" "You enabled all of this," I said. "You handed him the ammunition he needed to build a fraud. You tied our kids' futures and money to it without telling me. She leaves or the company dies. Your choice." Blake looked at Michelle, then back at me. His expression hardened. "I can't accept that," he said quietly. "Then we're done here." Patricia started to speak, but I was already standing. Michelle grabbed my arm. "Greg, you can't do this." "Watch me," I said. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Blake's voice, low and defeated. "I'll draft the resignation letter." Michelle's answer came sharp and furious, but I didn't stay to hear the rest. I'd won. But it didn't feel anything like victory. They all came home the next evening. Liam from Chicago, Emma from Stanford, Lucas from Boulder. I heard the front door open, voices overlapping with Michelle's. Not happy homecoming voices, war room voices. Lucas found me first, my youngest, 21, with Michelle's eyes and my stubbornness. He didn't bother knocking, just walked into my study and shut the door behind him. "Dad?" "Lucas." I stood, moving toward him, intending to hug him, but he put up a hand. "I'm not here for a hug," he said. "I'm here because my father is destroying our family, and somebody needs to tell him he's being an idiot." "That's direct," I said. "Yeah, well, I learned from the best." He dropped into the chair across from my desk. "Emma filled me in on everything," he said. "The stolen architecture, Mom's emails, Blake's fraud, all of it." Then you understand why I'm doing this, I told him. I understand why you're angry, he said. I don't understand why you're swinging a sledgehammer at everyone around you. He leaned forward. Liam's engaged, Dad, to Sarah. She works in Velocity Hub's marketing department. They met there 2 years ago, fell in love at the company Christmas party. If you blow up Velocity Hub, you don't just wreck Liam's career, you nuke his relationship. He didn't tell you about the engagement because he knew you'd find a way to ruin it. Lucas's voice sharpened. You've been doing that a lot lately, finding ways to ruin things. That's not fair, I said. Isn't it? He shot back. You've been planning this for 8 months. 8 months. You had all that time to talk to us, warn us, let us protect ourselves. Instead, you decided we were collateral damage. I was trying to spare you from knowing your mother betrayed us, I said. No. Lucas stood up. You were protecting your ego. Mom screwed up, yeah. But instead of handling it like an adult, talking to her, going to therapy, trying to fix it, you went nuclear. And now, we're the ones taking the fallout. The door opened. Emma and Liam walked in together, a united front. Emma carried a laptop. Liam held a thick folder. We're having a family meeting, Emma said. It wasn't a suggestion. All of us, right now. We moved to the living room. Michelle was already there, standing by the window with her arms wrapped around herself. She looked smaller than I'd seen her in years. Emma set her laptop on the coffee table. I've spent the last 3 days analyzing Velocity Hub's financials, investor docs, and code repository, she said. Here's what I found. She pulled up a slide deck. Charts, timelines, commit logs, valuations. On paper, Blake's company is worth $450 million, she said. But here's the problem. 90% of that valuation is tied to the back-end architecture. She looked at me. Your architecture, Dad. She clicked to the next slide. If you force the IP claim through and strip that architecture away, the company's value drops to maybe $40 million. That means every investor, every employee with stock options, every VC fund, they all lose roughly 90% of their investment. That's not my problem, I said. It becomes your problem, Liam cut in, opening his folder, when those investors sue you. He laid out several printed documents on the table. I've been talking to Velocity Hub's legal team, he said. If you destroy the company with an aggressive IP action, there's precedent for investors suing the IP holder for tortious interference. I own the IP, I said. And you waited 8 months to enforce it, Liam replied. In that time, the company raised $90 million from investors who had no idea the tech was contested. A good lawyer could argue that you knowingly allowed a misrepresentation to continue, making you partially complicit. You could be on the hook for damages. I looked at him. My 25-year-old son, using his business training to corner me. Are you seriously talking about helping investors sue your own father? I asked. I'm trying to save you from yourself, Liam said, meeting my eyes. Sarah and I are getting married next June. I want you there, Dad. But if you destroy the company where we met, where we built our careers, where we're planning our future, I don't know if I can have you at the wedding. That landed like a punch to the chest. Lucas jumped in. Emma put 50 grand into Velocity Hub. That's our entire safety net. Liam's career is on the line. I'm a junior in college, and my last name is becoming a joke in tech circles. Do you know what it's like having classmates ask if your dad is the guy trying to blow up an innovative startup? It's not innovative if it's built on theft, I said. Then make them pay for it, Emma shot back, voice rising. License the tech, take a revenue share, get board seats, get control, whatever. But don't burn it all down and drag us with it. Michelle finally spoke, barely above a whisper. I was wrong, Greg. I know that now. I gave Blake those files thinking I was helping him, not realizing I was stealing from you. It was stupid and selfish, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it, I said. No, she agreed. But maybe this does. She pulled out a set of documents. I'm giving up my equity in Velocity Hub, she said. All of it. I'm transferring it to you. And I've resigned, effective immediately. Blake already accepted my resignation letter. I stared at her. When did you do this? This morning, after Blake told me about your meeting, she said, placing the papers on the table. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I won't let my mistake destroy our children's futures. Silence settled over the room, 3 kids watching their parents like a live fire exercise, waiting to see who would break first. Emma closed her laptop. Dad, Blake offered you the whole company. Take the deal. Run it yourself. Put your name on it. Show everyone that you built the foundation, but don't annihilate it and everyone tied to it. Including your daughter, who invested her savings, Liam added. And your son, who's trying to build a life with his fiancée, Lucas finished. They'd coordinated this, rehearsed it, divided their talking points like a team briefing. They were good. Too good. I'd trained them well. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in my study until 3 a.m, going over everything. The documents, the code, the emails, and the faces of my kids asking me to choose them over a scorched earth version of justice. At dawn, I called my attorney. Draw up the papers, I said. I'm taking Blake's offer, full transfer of ownership. Yes, sir, he said. But add one condition, I continued. Michelle's equity gets transferred to Emma, all of it. That's not what Blake proposed, he said. It's what I'm proposing, I replied. Michelle forfeits her stake. Emma gets it, with upside. And I want a public statement from Blake admitting the IP theft. He'll agree to that, my attorney said. He doesn't have a choice, I answered. By noon, the documents were ready. I called Blake and told him to meet me at Sentinel Properties' main office. Not his turf, not neutral. Mine. He arrived with Patricia. Michelle came too, even though I hadn't asked her to. We sat in a glass-walled conference room overlooking downtown Seattle. The paperwork spread out in front of us. Everything is in order, Patricia said. Ownership transfer, revised equity distribution, the public statement. Once Blake signs and you countersign, Velocity Hub is yours. Blake looked over at Michelle. You're really giving up everything? It's the right thing to do, Michelle said quietly. Your wife's equity goes to Emma, I told Blake. That way my daughter's investment comes back tenfold when this company succeeds. Consider it restitution. Blake nodded slowly. Fair enough. Anything else? One more thing. I slid a final document across the table. This is your termination letter, I said. Blake's face drained of color. You said if I signed, I could stay on as an advisor. I lied, I said evenly. You built a company on stolen work. You misled investors. You dragged my wife into it and made her complicit. You don't get a soft landing and a consulting retainer. You get nothing but your name on a public confession. Patricia started to object, but Blake raised his hand. It's fine, he said. He looked at me, and for the first time there was something like respect in his eyes. I deserve it. Yes, I said. You do. He signed every page, every clause, every admission. When he finished, he stood and offered me his hand. I didn't take it. My son works for you, I said instead. Liam Lansing, make sure he's treated fairly under the new structure. Blake blinked. Your son? Realization crossed his face. I didn't know. He never said. He shouldn't have to, I said. He earned his role. He did, Blake agreed. He's one of the best strategists we've got. He paused at the door. For what it's worth, Greg, I honestly thought your work had been abandoned. That doesn't excuse what I did. But I didn't set out to rob you specifically. Yes, you did, I said. You just didn't think I'd ever notice. He left without another word. Michelle stood slowly. What happens now? Now you move out, I said. My attorney will draw up separation papers. Greg, 26 years, she whispered. 26 good years, I said. And then you chose your career over our marriage. I can forgive a lot, but not that. Tears glossed her eyes, but she nodded. The kids will understand eventually. I'm not keeping them from you, I said, softening. But I can't live with someone who put equity stakes ahead of our family. I never valued money over family, she protested. You gave our daughter's money to a fraud, I replied. You gambled our son's career on it, and you did it all for a bigger stake in a company you knew was built on my work. That is valuing money over family. I stood. The conversation was over. She left quietly. No screaming, no scene, just acceptance. Patricia gathered her files. You'll need to address the employees, she said. Announce the transition. Tomorrow, I said. And I want Liam in the room. Understood. She hesitated at the door, then added, This was the right decision, Mr. Lansing. Then why does it feel like I lost? I asked. She gave a sad little smile. Because you're a father before you're a businessman. That's not a flaw. After she left, I stood at the window, watching the city move below. I'd won. I'd taken back my work, destroyed Blake's career, protected my children's futures, reclaimed the company built on my code, and in the process, my marriage was over. My wife was moving out. My youngest still thought I was the villain in this story. Victory had never felt so hollow. 3 months later, Velocity Hub was running better than it ever had under Blake. I'd overhauled operations, brought in real leadership, and started steering the company toward actual innovation instead of polished theft. Liam stayed. He got another promotion and, slowly, started talking to me again. Emma's stake had already doubled in value. Lucas came home for Thanksgiving. Michelle moved into a condo downtown. We signed the divorce papers 2 weeks after the ownership transfer. 26 years of marriage ended with signatures, a few formal words from the lawyers, and a handshake between people who used to share a life. She didn't fight for alimony. She didn't contest the settlement. She just took what was fair, said very little, and walked away. The kids split holidays between us. Christmases felt stiff, birthdays even worse, but we survived it. I was in my office at Velocity Hub when my receptionist buzzed through. "Mr. Lansing, there's someone here to see you. She says it's personal." "Who?" "Her name is Catherine Brennan." I didn't know any Catherine Brennan. "Send her in." The woman who walked in looked to be around 50, well put together, composed, with the posture of someone who'd been through a few wars and come out stronger. Dark hair streaked with gray. Her eyes tugged at something in my memory. "Mr. Lansing," she offered her hand. "Thank you for seeing me without an appointment." "I don't think we've met," I said. "We haven't," she replied. "But we have a connection you don't know about." She sat down without waiting to be asked. 28 years ago, you dated a woman named Sarah Brennan," she said. "You were together for about 2 years, before you met Michelle." The name hit me like a shock of cold water. Sarah, my college girlfriend. The woman I'd loved before Michelle. We'd broken up when I moved to Seattle for a startup. Lost touch after that. "What about Sarah?" I asked carefully. "Sarah was my sister," Catherine said, voice steady. "She died 4 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. I didn't know." "There's no reason you would," she said. "You two hadn't spoken in decades." She opened her purse and took out an envelope. My name was written on it in a familiar, long-forgotten hand. "Before she died, Sarah gave me this," Catherine said. "She made me promise to deliver it if I ever had the chance." I took the envelope. "She also asked me to tell you something," Catherine continued, meeting my eyes. "You have a son. His name is James Brennan. He's 27. The room seemed to tilt. "What?" "Sarah found out she was pregnant 3 weeks after you moved to Seattle," Catherine said. "She tried to call you. Your number had changed. She wrote you, but you'd moved. Then she saw an announcement in a tech magazine, an engagement notice. You and Michelle." Catherine's voice softened. "She decided not to interfere. She didn't want to be the woman who made you feel trapped when you'd already built a new life." "She was pregnant with my child and didn't tell me," I said slowly. "She tried, Greg. You were gone. You moved on. She didn't want to blow up your life." My hands were shaking. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because James deserves to know his father," she said, "and because Sarah's last wish was that the two of you meet." Catherine stood. "He doesn't know I'm here. He doesn't know I tracked you down. But he knows about you. Sarah told him everything before she died." "Where is he?" I asked. "Boston. He's a software engineer at a cybersecurity firm. Smart kid. Has your eyes. Sarah's stubbornness." She handed me a business card. "That's his email and phone number," she said. "Whether you reach out, that's your decision." She left before I could ask anything else. I sat there with an unopened envelope in one hand and a business card in the other. A son. I had another son. 27 years old. While I was building Koream, raising Liam, playing family man in Seattle, there was a boy in Boston growing up with questions about the man who wasn't there. I opened the envelope. The letter was dated 3 years before Sarah died. "Greg, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I want you to know I never regretted keeping James. He was the best thing in my life, but I always regretted that you never got to know him. He's brilliant, kind, and stubborn, just like you. Please, if Catherine finds you, give him a chance. He deserves a father. You deserve a son who chose to find you. Sarah." I stared at the page for a long time, then picked up my phone and looked at James's number. 27 years. I'd missed his whole childhood, but maybe I didn't have to miss everything that came after. I dialed. 8 months later, Liam stood at an altar in a vineyard outside Seattle with Sarah, his Sarah, in a dress that cost more than my first car. The ceremony was classic, elegant, the kind of wedding people post about for months. Michelle sat 3 rows behind me with her new boyfriend, some consultant she'd met at a networking event. We'd exchanged polite nods before it started. That was all. The divorce had been finalized 4 months earlier. Lucas sat on my left, Emma on my right. And beside Emma, on the far end of the row, sat James Brennan, my son, meeting his half-siblings for the first time at his brother's wedding. It had taken 3 months of calls before James agreed to meet in person. Coffee in Boston, awkward, tentative. He looked so much like Sarah it hurt, but he had my jawline, my hands. We talked for 4 hours, about his childhood, about his mother, about all the questions he'd never had answers to. I told him about Corium, about building something from scratch, about how I wished I'd known, how I would have shown up if I'd had the chance. He didn't forgive me. Not that day. But he didn't walk away either. "She made me promise not to contact you," he'd said. "Mom said you had your own family, your own life. She didn't want to complicate it." "She should have told me anyway," I'd said. "Maybe," he answered, "but she did what she thought was right." He looked at me across that cafe table. "I'm not looking for a father, Greg. I'm 27. I raised myself. But I'm willing to get to know the man who gave me half my DNA. That was 8 months ago. Since then, we'd talked every week. He'd met Emma first, then Lucas. Liam had taken longer, still sorting through the fallout from Velocity Hub and the divorce. But eventually, even he agreed to meet his older half-brother. Now they were all here at Liam's wedding, 4 pieces of a family I never planned for, somehow fitting together. The reception was held at the same vineyard, Liam and Sarah's first dance, speeches, Emma's toast that had everyone wiping their eyes. I stayed near the back, sipping whiskey, watching my kids laugh together. James wandered over with a beer in his hand. "Hell of a party," he said. "Liam did well for himself." "So did you," I said, nodding toward the dance floor where my 3 legitimate children were wrapped up in their own joy. "They're good people," James said. "Their mother raised them well." "So did yours," I replied. He took a drink. "Look, I know this is odd, me being here, meeting everyone all at once, but Emma invited me, and it felt like the right time." "I'm glad you came," I said. We watched the crowd in a comfortable silence. "Mom left me letters," he said after a while. "One for every birthday she knew she might miss. I opened the one for my 27th last month." "What did it say?" I asked. "That she hoped I'd found you," he said. "That she hoped you were everything she remembered." He looked at me. "She said you were the most honest man she'd ever met. That you built things instead of taking them. That you fought fair and loved hard." "She was kind," I said quietly. "She was honest," he answered. He finished his beer. "I don't need a father, Greg," he said. "But I could use a friend who understands what it means to build something from nothing. Someone who knows that sometimes the foundation matters more than the finish." I understood exactly what he meant. He was giving me a place in his life, but on his terms. Not father and son in the traditional sense. 2 men connected by blood and history, figuring out what to make of it. "I'd like that," I said. Later, as the night wound down, Liam found me. His tie was loosened, his jacket gone, the happiest I'd seen him in years. "Thanks for coming, Dad," he said. "Wouldn't have missed it," I replied. "I mean it," he said. "After everything that happened, I wasn't sure you'd show up." He glanced toward James, who was chatting with Lucas by the bar. "Or that you'd bring him," Liam added. "He's your brother," I said. "Half-brother," Liam corrected. Then he shook his head. "Who I met 6 months ago. Our family's complicated." "Most families are," I said. "Yeah, but ours is like a tech startup," he laughed. "Version 1 crashed hard. We pivoted, and now we're trying to scale the new model." "Think it'll work?" I asked. "I think we're going to try," he said. "That's something." He pulled me into a quick, tight hug, then went back to his new wife. I left not long after, driving home alone to the house that had once been full. Emma had moved to San Francisco for a job. Lucas was back in Boulder. Liam was starting his own life, but I had James's number saved in my phone now. Velocity Hub was thriving under my leadership. The IP was legitimate, the roadmap solid, the investors satisfied. Somewhere across the city, Michelle was building a new life of her own. I'd beaten Blake, I'd reclaimed my work, I'd lost my marriage, I'd discovered a son I'd never known existed, and somehow, out of the wreckage, I'd ended up with a family that looked nothing like the one I'd imagined, but felt more honest than anything I'd ever built before. 12 months ago, I dropped a badge at a company party. That single moment pulled a thread that unraveled everything, and then wove it back together into a life I barely recognized. Standing alone in my quiet house, looking at photos that now showed 4 children instead of 3, I realized something. Sometimes you have to burn the old foundation to see what's really holding you up, and sometimes that's exactly what you need.